There we go. Mic on. High poly 3D portfolio with focus on pop culture by Håvard Lars Larsen. Hey, that's me. Alright, so let's see. Yeah, let's start with the research question and project aim so we know what I'm doing. Okay, research question. How much has Lars's 3D sculpting skills improved in 2 years? When he had no skills to begin with? What would a personal portfolio with finished custom-tailored images look like? That's a good question. So what's the project aim? Well, the idea is to have a short document with finished work pieces that display competence in camera composition, 3D sculpting, model posing, and scene setup. This will be evidence of what a future employer can expect from Lars, as well as being a showcase to people not familiar with 3D artwork and sculpting. Now, that's fine, but random people not familiar with me might just say, well, who's Lars, and why does he even matter? What's his deal? Well, if you stick around, you might just get a little bit more familiar with me and why my research question is formulated the way it is. And I assure you, I was not drunk while writing it. Okay, so the reason why I'm creating a visual portfolio are threefold, and I have personal objectives here. Number one, I wish to accurately see where I stand in terms of competence and skill with ZBrush, with minor use of Photoshop. Number two, I also wish to receive feedback from regular viewers and professionals. And three, I wish to create a visual portfolio that can help me land a job in the future. And all of these objectives are best assessed by having finished images. Yeah, I will elaborate more on these points right now, and then we'll actually look at my famous art pieces that I keep building up, hyping up. Okay, I wish to accurately see where I stand in terms of competence and skill with ZBrush. So, before attending NORAF, I worked as an illustrator, but I always had this little desire to learn about 3D modeling, but I didn't know anything about it. So when I started here at NORAF, I just Googled it, and one name that kept being brought up was ZBrush. So as I researched it, I looked at demos, reviews, and even tutorials just to see it in action, and I was really amazed at what I saw. And when I saw like the finished products, like the ones I linked here, I went, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's gonna be my job. So yeah, for 2.5 years now, I've been researching a lot, and I've been prototyping, but I haven't really made anything specific, because I just don't want to bother people with my first few tries. I know that things can be better, and what I do isn't always great, so yeah. That's why I've been biding my time, just gaining knowledge for jobs. But now, what now, as the point says, I decided that it was time to see what my accumulated knowledge over the years can produce. So it's good to start building a portfolio I can be somewhat proud of, to have put some thought into. So, why would I, another reason why I wish to do this is because I want to receive feedback from regular viewers and professionals. Because I welcome the feedback from the people I show my artwork to. So I want to hear what they like, why they like it, and what their thoughts are. And I also welcome scrutiny, because I don't always want to hear, hey, you're perfect, you can do no wrong. I want to hear that sometimes people go, hey, Lars, that nose looks kind of weird. And not just your nose, but the one on the model too. Zing! Alright. Yeah, I welcome that kind of thing, because that gives me feedback on what I can improve. Because that gives me feedback on what I can improve on, and it removes a lot of guesswork. Because sometimes, no, I think it's good. But then there's also a helpful advice versus impractical advice, and that just means that sometimes we have to moderate what we artists takes in as criticism, because sometimes we're on a tight deadline with limited resources, and people can go, oh, you should totally have Final Fantasy graphics on your tiny mobile game that you had 4 days to produce 2D sprites for. You know, can't be done. So yeah, just understanding that is good. And then we have relative preference, where artwork can be done exactly right, but there will still be people who don't care for what the stuff I have produced. So for instance, I put down 3 Batmans in the window here, and we have the comedy Batman from the 60s at the left corner, and then we have the more serious take in the right corner. And some people will always prefer the one in the right or the left, because people are different. But sometimes there are universal answers, like that the Batman in the middle, played by George Clooney, just sucks totally. It bombed on RottenTomatoes.com, for instance, which is a critic-driven website. However, this means that there are ways to increase chance of productive and favorable responses, and that's by sticking to solid drawing fundamentals that has been established over time. For instance, people seem to respond better to visual art that have a strong silhouette, or that they understand the shapes, that the perspective is correctly done, and those kind of things. So yeah, there are ways to increase the statistics. Anyway, enough about that. So my third objective here with this project is that I wish to create a visual portfolio that can land me a job in the future. And yeah, one of the criteria I think is important is to have an up-to-date document that reflects my current skill level. So yeah, that's why I'm doing a lot of art pieces this year, so I have something to show for it. Because keep in mind, I had no competence with ZBrush prior 2 years ago. So yeah, it's time to set something up. And yeah, on a quick side note, there was this one guy who told me that, hey, portfolio, Norov will provide us academically approved portfolios based on what we do in studio. And I think that's nice, but you know, as the years go by, it's very natural to remove pieces that aren't holding up anymore and replace them with better pieces into the general portfolio. Um, so even though Norov is awesome, they're not a their approval isn't a permanent stamp that will last forever. Um, and Norov is trying to teach us critical thinking, so we need to move with the times. So yeah, keep the portfolio updated, son. um, so yeah, my next mark here is pop culture and fan art. Yeah, okay, so if we look to the right, um, we see some concept art I have done for possible 3D models I will do, or have done. And what's interesting about them is that these models, they belong to an existing franchise. The top one is actually based on a show called Adventure Time by Cartoon Network, and the bottom one is by Disney, and the show is called Gravity Falls. So, um, yeah, why have I done that? Why? uh, well, it forces me to think differently when I draw. I have to pay attention to what other artists, talented artists, have done when they design characters. So it pushes me out of my own comfort zone. But furthermore, doing fan art can increase the likelihood of receiving contracts. So let's say that, um, yeah, the thing is, or before we get to that, I want to say that people at DC Comics, Marvel Comics, and video game companies, Blizzard, and Disney, they're always looking at art. They have people looking at art, and so let's say that a guy from Cartoon Network just decides to stumble across Lars3D.deviantart.com, where I do have some art, and he sees it and he goes, oh, okay, cool. But then he goes, hey, wait a moment, he has fan art of Adventure Time. Maybe this guy would be interested in doing a commission for us, or something like that. Maybe he wants to. He would be interested in an animation contract or something like that. Because these guys, they receive portfolios daily with special interest, and there's just not enough time that when they look at other people's art to spend time and guess if they're interested or not. So it helps to have like a little hints here and there that you might be interested. Or that's what I think, at least. But then I know that some of you guys are just crossing your hands right now and going, "No way, man! I'm independent for life." And let me just say that I hear you, brother, and sisters. I get you. It's cool. But yeah, moving on. So, yeah, custom tailored portfolios. Yeah. So by also doing fan art, I'm creating a big variation, and not just things I'm comfortable doing myself. So I might do some horror artwork and some comedy artwork. And let's say that one day I need money, and there are these two companies that are looking for artists, and and one is already a horror movie company, and the other one is a comedy company. Then obviously they want portfolios that are tailored to their individual needs. So let's say that I send a generic one to each of them. It's the same one, and both of them like it okay, but like they only like one or two pictures each of what they see. But if I take my previous artwork and like I send the horror company only horror artwork, and the comedy company, only comedy stuff. Then I have made custom tailored portfolios that show specific interest. I'm sending this specifically to them, and I'm showing a direct interest, and I'm not treating them as a generic customer. So that's the path of logic I follow, at least. Now, so I bet you guys want to see some 3D artwork by now. So let's get to it. And the first one we have is Adventure Time with Princess Bubblegum and Marceline. I think I spent about a month on these, and they started in a T-pose first, making them more like models rather than being sculpts. And yeah, there were like, it was way over 40 different parts actually, but I kind of lost count after a while. And I think I made 90% in ZBrush and only 10% in Photoshop. Let's move on a little bit so we can see the process. Yeah, so the image in the middle shows what I did in ZBrush, and the one to the right was the not pre-production, post-production stuff I did afterwards in adding, colors to the sky and amping up the visual effects. I'm not gonna babble on so much because I don't know what you guys want, so you guys just have to tell me afterwards and I'll answer the questions. I don't know what you want. Okay, so the next one is Agent Q from Shadowrun Hong Kong. I spent 3 weeks. This did not start in a T-pose, so it is more of a sculpt. I only had 20 different parts for this, but they were much more detailed, I think, so it was still a challenge. And 99% was done in ZBrush. So let's talk a little bit about what were the challenges. So if we look at the image to the left here, we see me using basic shapes like circles and cylinders to form a face and arms. So I spent about a week carving it from that to the model we see down in the right corner. However, I felt that her clothes weren't quite right, and I had to look it up. And I discovered I was pretty much off on the improvisation I had done on her clothes. So redoing her clothes took about a week. And then I spent another week just optimizing her pose and making it more asymmetrical and those kind of things. And actually this model, Storm from X-Men, I actually did this one before the Agent Q one. This is when my workflow pipeline was perfected, I think. A simple idea took me only 8 hours to do, and it's the deep. Oh my god! No, it's clearly a sculpt, so I'm just trolling. It's 20 pieces, and 99% was done in ZBrush. I don't have a lot to say about this, so let's just move on. So to sum up, this year I have completed 4 3D models, completed 3 images in total, and I have increased my ZBrush competence and efficiency significantly. So in the famous words of George Bush, I say mission accomplished. And I think I made America great again by doing this. So thanks for watching and listening, and let's talk questions right now.